From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
Much more on the Biden-Trump debate. So what did I see? I think Bill Maher, I saw something about Bill Maher said it was like a Mike Tyson knockout in the first round. Whoa. I thought it was a TKO, maybe around the 7th or 8th round. But we've got Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and I'm going to do it like I always do, author of, come on, man, The Truth About Biden's No Good, Horrible, Very Bad Presidency, even though Mr. Concha is writing a new book. The old title is just way too much fun. And my pal David Webb, Fox News contributor, Sirius XM talk show host extraordinaire. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on set last night. Thank you for coming on this morning. I'm most grateful. Joe, I guess I'll begin with you. You're the media honcho. Front page of the Wall Street Journal, defiant president pushes on as allies discuss replacement. I don't know what. The New York Times says drop out. Barack Obama and Bill Clinton said stay in. You just had kind of a bad night, like Aaron Judge might have struck out a couple times. And polls are showing 60% of independents want him to drop out, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, start us out, Joe. You know more about this than I do.
Well, it's all over the place, right? The party brokers, as you mentioned, they're saying stay in, Joe, because I don't know legally, Larry, if they even could get another candidate on the ballot because, state by states, they have all these different rules. So, maybe Clinton and Obama are smart enough to say he's got to stay because we have no other option. Legally, we might not be able to get somebody in. And plus, I hear a lot about Gavin Newsom, right? And I just don't think that's a good option at all. I mean, when you get past the Colgate and the gel and the hairspray, you got this thing called a record, right?
Gavin's a loser. He's a loser. Oh. You're right. He's a loser.
He's not so much a loser. He's an elitist, and he's a snob. Oh. And Joe Biden, one of his, strengths, or at least before he became whatever version we saw on Thursday night, is that he can connect with people in the Midwest, right? He's Scranton Joe, and he plays that role pretty well, especially with the unions. But then you think of Gavin Newsom, you think he's going to be able to connect with, blue-collar workers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, places like Georgia, you think he's going to do well, or Arizona? I don't see it. So between that and, highest tax rate in the country, highest homeless rate in the country, highest poverty rate in the country, the fact that more people are leaving California than any other state in the country for places like Florida, Tennessee, and Texas, I think you put Gavin in there, and that's a big, big mistake. But overall, just getting back to the media angle here for a moment, when the New York Times says it's time to drop out, that's a huge sign. But if Biden stays in, you never guess who they're going to endorse. Joe Biden, right? So,
yes.
Because they've endorsed every Republican presidential candidate going back to 1956. That means they endorsed Mondale. It's the guy who won one state. Right. So the New York Times can say this now, but in the end, I think Joe is the guy going forward because ultimately he's the one who has to step aside. And I don't think he wants to be known as the first president ever to do that because his party told him to. LBJ dropped out because of Vietnam and his health problems, but here it would be like Joe was told to go and he obeyed. He doesn't look like the type of guy who likes to obey in these situations. He's a narcissist, and obviously he probably likes the job.
David Webb.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. By the way, David, thank you for coming on. David, it's on the TV show last night. We had Kevin McCarthy, former speaker, who made a good point. It's and Joe referred to it. It's awful hard to replace. Now, that's because they have rule changes. The Democratic National Committee, DNC, think of it as the convention, but they have to vote for a candidate, for Biden presumably, before August 7th because of an Ohio ballot problem. Okay, Ohio changed its rules, and if they don't get it done by August 7th, they will lose Ohio's votes and electoral votes. Okay, now I don't know the technical aspects of that, but it goes back to this Ohio rule change. So in other words, David, at the convention, you could have an open convention, but you wouldn't have Ohio in there. I think that's part of it, and I think it might penalize the electoral votes. But anyway, it's not easy to get rid of it. If you've got Republicans who want to, I saw Speaker Mike Johnson says, well, we got to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would replace the president for health or mental or incapacitation reasons, they could do that by calling a cabinet meeting. And if a cabinet member raises his hand or her hand and says, "You got to go, Joe," they'll vote on it. So it could happen, but that is not going to happen in Biden's cabinet. So, David Webb, where does that leave us? Where do you see this?
You're hitting two of my favorite and I think most important points, and that's why they are my favorite in this whole process. Democrats can't afford to lose any state's electoral votes for Joe Biden. And if they even can get past state rules, which the Biden campaign and the DNC changed, they made changes to how it works, kind of like Harry Reid in the supermajority rule. And eventually, if you look ahead, it ended up biting him in the you-know-what. So that's important. That's an important point. Second, look, there's a committee running the White House right now, whether it's the Susan Rices, the various leftover Clintonians, Obamites, whoever it is. Joe Biden's not fully in charge. And presidents have advisors, but he's not in charge. So not much would change by keeping him on the ballot. When you add those things and other elements together, and my warning to the Republicans on this is strategy over punditry and the sound of your own voice. Look, with all due respect to Chip Roy, someone I've interviewed many times, the idea that if you remove the weakened and weaker opponent, they're not going to write a new story and have a shot at it is bad strategy. Biden in place, beat him. The committee will still be there, but the committee will be gone if you beat him. And therefore, the Republicans can do the reset. And you were there for the reset for the Republican Party under Donald Trump round one. And that's important for the long-term strategy of the country. So we have to think strategically rather than the sound of, as I put it, your own voice as a politician or some pundit or some consultant. There's a longer-term need for the country to recover. We need the pro-growth policies. I think you know a thing or two about that, and all the other things that are needed to get this country back on track.
Well, I think, on that point, David, and Joe, you'll weigh in on it too, but come back to David. On that point, I agree. First of all, the Chip Roy, Republicans should not be telling Democrats or the Biden cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment. That's just silly. It looks silly. And by the way, it is silly because it ain't going to happen. There's no chance that process is going to happen. So you're 100% right. It's like stand up and be, put your big boy pants on. Stop fiddling around like a kid. Second point, here's Trump on message, all right? I want to get you both on this, but we talked briefly about it last night on the TV. He's on message on the economy, on deregulation, on tax cuts, okay, on energy, on message on the border, on message on crime, frankly, on message on abortion. But he was going to, I look at the economy and the border / crime as meat and potatoes. Joe Biden has essentially no defense against those issues. They're like 70, 80% issues. And, David Webb, I think that's exactly what the GOP should chorus those points. Stop wandering off about the 25th Amendment. Hold to those messages. Nationalize those messages. Leadership, surrogates, everybody. This is a mistake they made in 2022. They didn't have a nationalized message. To some extent, we all made this mistake in 2020. But I'm just saying right now, with the unified party behind Trump, just go and look at the transcript of this debate. Trump's performance was superb. He made a few, embellished a few points, but that's the way life works in politics. But basically, his performance on the issues worked. Biden didn't have a response. That's one of the reasons he bumbled around so much. And that's my response, David Webb. Stay on message, GOP, exclamation point.
When your message and your issues not just coincide, but actually line up almost perfectly on economy, on national security, even on foreign policy, which is typically not a lot of Americans' first point on general elections, and on other issues, when you look at all those things and they align, then the Republicans need to get in line together, like the Reagan rule. If you have some disagreements, put them aside. Your 80% friend is not your 20% enemy. And the people are there with you. And I said it last night, Larry, the goal of a debate is to reach beyond the base.
Right.
And Trump did that. And when the Republicans have the ability to reach beyond the Republican base, based on those issues being aligned, the things we're talking about, use that to win the election, and not just the presidential, but you have a better opportunity down the ballot. And there are a lot of other key races, local races, because that's where your next leadership comes from, most likely. That's what's needed, and they need to think strategically.
That's a great point. Joe Concha, I want to hear you on this. I got to take a break, okay? Just please stay where you are. We'll come right back to this issue. Reach beyond your base with the right message, as Dave Webb laid it out. And I think Trump did a lot of good on those points. But got to take a break. We'll come back. Folks, I'm Kudlow. We got the best of the best, Joe Concha and David Webb. We'll be right back.
Larry Kudlow. From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. We're talking to Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and David Webb, Fox News contributor and Sirius XM talk show host. Joe, the question before the House, before the break, with Mr. Trump on message, I thought in the debate Thursday night, key bread and butter issues such as the border and the economy. Did he reach beyond his base? And isn't that where the GOP should be going instead of these sort of fanciful 25th Amendment or this or that, or get rid of Joe Biden? What do you think, Joe?
Go for the kill shot, quite frankly, Larry. Make this an election where Joe Biden suddenly has to visit New Jersey. Poll out yesterday.
Right.
Trump up in New Jersey now. He's either tied or up in Minnesota, hasn't gone red since 72. He's tied or up in Virginia, hasn't gone red since 2004. Tied or up in places like New Hampshire, Maine, and Joe Biden isn't nimble enough to defend all these states. Oh, by the way, while he's trailing in North Carolina and Georgia and Nevada and Arizona and Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. So, yeah, at this point, Trump, you got all the momentum on your side. You have your base. They're never going anywhere. He wasn't joking, really, when he said he could go out to Fifth Avenue, shoot someone, they'd stay with him, right? Yeah. He gets convicted, and his numbers only go up. And going back to a point you made earlier, enough with this 25th Amendment BS, right? People don't like trying to do the outside stuff to take a candidate out, right? They didn't like it with the Trump trials, obviously. And if we do 25th Amendment or impeachment, no one wants this stuff. Just have it come down to November 5th at the ballot box and people asking the simple question, were you better off under Trump or Biden? And that's what's going to bring in independence. That's something Trump should be saying every time. And I'll make one more point before we go to David. At the Wildwood rally that I went to, Trump was very he made a great point, and I hadn't heard him make it before. He said, you know what, I'm more powerful and I'm more popular than I was in 2016 or 2020, because then you had to think about what the alternative was. Now you know what it is. People got a taste of it and they don't like it.
That is a good point. Can I just ask, did you say, New Hampshire? You also said Maine? Really? Maine?
Yeah, Maine.
I love that.
Believe it.
I love that. Maine.
Why not? If New Hampshire, why not Maine?
Well,
right?
I saw the numbers in New Jersey. I saw that poll. Was Trump ahead? I think it was either even or he was ahead.
He's up a point, yeah. I believe it. I was at that rally. I don't see any Biden signs around my neighborhood. I'm in a kind of like 50-50 town.
David Webb, is Trump going to carry New York?
Well, here's a really important point. And Joe nailed it. Make him play defense.
Yeah.
But let's say Trump doesn't carry New York, to your question, Larry, and he doesn't carry the state of New York for the presidential. Down ballot, there's a need to push. New Yorkers have elected Republican governors before. Mm-hmm. Upstate New York, out of the hole, unfortunately, that is one of our favorite city the greatest in the nation, Manhattan, New York City, Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, all of this. If he can put that pressure on, they're playing defense and we're winning.
You guys want to swing?
Sorry, I think Joe's coaching a baseball team.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I'm coaching my son at golf. He's 8, and he's going to be the next Tiger Woods. Go ahead, take it away, guys.
Sorry, David.
Can he take on Joe Biden?
He's going to run. He's going to run. He's going to run for the Senate in New Jersey. Now, David, you were saying, please.
Well, my point being the downward pressure from the presidential on down is really important. When they have to defend in all these areas, and I love Maine vacation land, so I'm with Joe on that. New Hampshire, one of my favorite states, the Granite State. But in New York, Trump can help Republicans also begin to turn the state around.
Yes.
And that's important. This is not just a presidential election. This is a United States general election to put us on the right track. So the Republicans, let the Democrats have their Joe Biden and let them run for all the issues and things we've talked about, but focus on playing your game better and winning up and down the ballot, because we've got a lot of work to do to get us back on track economically. We've got to get those pro-growth policies back, tax policy back. We've got to unleash American energy. And we're not going to do that if we're constantly fighting the Democrats at every level of government.
No, stay with the message. The message has evolved into a very good, powerful message. Unlike 22, this is the border and the economy, okay? The border and the economy. I mean, you saw Trump Thursday night. Trump brought, he brought almost everything that Biden said Trump brought back to the border, which is, again, it's an 80% issue. And it leads into the whole, crime and public safety concerns. It's a nationalized issue. It's not a border issue, right? It's a nationalized issue. Just like inflation and falling real wages, nationalized issue. Or put another way, it's issues that create a working class coalition. Whoever said it earlier at the top, Joe, or one of you gentlemen said, I think it was Joe, Gavin Newsom's an elitist. They can't go there. Now, Joe Biden may not be an elitist per se, but his party is elite. They don't care about working folks. That's the whole issue of EVs. And climate, and change your appliances and cost a fortune for new electricity in your home. They don't understand. Working folks can't afford it. It's phenomenal stuff. And the other thing I'm hearing, David Webb, you know what you're saying? Trump will have coattails. We haven't had a Republican with coattails in I don't know how long. Maybe back to Reagan. Trump could have real coattails, as you say, for the down ballot. For Senate seats, for House seats. Wow. Think about New York State, right? In upstate New York, Westchester County, and elsewhere. There's 4 congressional seats that we picked up in 2022. Everybody was worried about losing them. Gives those guys a shot. They might be able to do very well, those 4. And we may see California. Kevin McCarthy was so good picking up House seats in California. We may see more. Think about that. Joe Concha, coattails. The first time in ages a GOP candidate can do that.
Well, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, people forget, the Senate is completely winnable at this point. I mean, right. You got Montana. Yep. How do you not win Montana if Trump's up 20 points, right? I know there's some people that may jump to the incumbent, but not that many. 20 points worth? No way. And then we talk about also Ohio as well. That's in play. West Virginia's done because obviously Manchin is running. He wasn't going to win against Justice anyway. But then you have races in places like Arizona, Maryland, I think is very much up for grabs. And I know people yell, Larry Hogan, he's a rhino. All right, because he's criticized Trump doesn't make him a rhino necessarily. And besides, he's going to vote with Trump 95, 98% of the time. So, yeah, that's what Trump needs to get everything he wants to get done if he's elected, when he's elected. And that's to have a Senate behind him and a House behind him. Now, he had that in 2017, remember, but that was a party working against him and not really with him on things like the border. So I think this time around, Speaker Johnson and even McConnell will give Trump what he wants because they know that, that it's not in their best interest to oppose him at this point, given the power that he has.
I like that a lot. David Webb, what happens from here? What happens from here? Post-debate, Trump's going to keep hustling, right? I don't know what they're going to do with Biden. I know he's in North Carolina. I expect them to try to hide Biden. I mean, with the Democrats are still going to be split about whether they think Biden should stay in or not. I mean, that's going to be the fun. In other words, I don't think this debate catastrophe for Biden is going to go away. Republicans should lay off that. Okay, let the circular firing squad hit for the Democrats. But the Democrats are going to have a circulating fire squad, aren't they?
Yeah, look, let them have their circular firing squad. Let the Joe Scarboroughs and the Mika Brzezinskis lose their mind, the ladies on The View. Joe Biden just virtue signals that, he goes to a Waffle House after the debate because every Georgian only goes to a Waffle House. They have no other play. Let them keep doing this because the American people, and we're all three of us are hitting on this, and I hope people are paying close attention.
All right.
Your issues now align. Focus on what's important to you. Vote your interest. Okay. Again, reach beyond the base. Look, Republicans and Democrats are paying the same increased price of 100% for eggs. You're paying 40% more for certain groceries, 25% more, your food and fuel. That's not a pricing structure for Republicans and one for Democrats.
All right.
This is a structure for all Americans.
I got it, Joe.
So focus and fight better.
David Webb, Sirius XM Talk Show, Fox News. Joe Concha, Fox News. I'm Kudlow. Terrific stuff, fellas. On the other side of the break, the great Kevin Hassett's going to talk about the economic side of this debate and what lies ahead. I'm Kudlow. Stay with us.